fucking managers aren't doing their jobs. They're coddling people, and they're coddling them because they're fucking terrified because we've given them all the control. Somewhere along the line, it became okay to be disengaged in your job. What the fuck is that? And so they're spending all their time doing all these things. They're trying to improve engagement by trying to improve engagement, but you can't improve engagement by trying to improve engagement. You can't improve your customers' perception of you by trying to improve perception. You have to do something that blows their fucking mind. And so in this case, like I'm saying, hey, managers need to set clear expectations and priorities. I have a guideline on how to do that. Provide direction and support. Create a culture of discipline and trust. Recognize and reward outcomes. Quickly exit those who can't or won't. This is how we engage them. By setting clear expectations, here's how you win. It really starts with the 2x2. The idea is we get clear on what we need to be focused on. We get clear on the priorities. We get clear on how we work, which is daily, weekly focusing exercise, time blocking, daily focusing. The expectation is don't show up to a meeting unprepared, show up to a meeting prepared, and then I can coach. Here's an example. I had to have a really real conversation with my leadership team last week. The main point was it's a best practice. It's a requirement of mine that my practice leads go over their team members' DFEs and coach on improving them, because a muddy DFE every time is a muddy thought process. What people write down is really what they think they accomplished or what they're doing. So the long story is, I was telling Jake and Jason, every morning you need to go through these things. You need to coach your people. Pick up the phone. Don't send emails. I gave them direction, pick up the phone, and then they still weren't. They were showing up to the meeting, and there was lots of now emails flying, but they weren't taking my direction. You know what I did? I created instructions. I wrote them down. Couldn't be any clearer on my expectation. And then a month went by, and I could tell that they still, the very first thing it said, if there's something praiseworthy, praise first, and praise in public. If you've got coaching, you pick up the phone. This is what the instructions say. And I could tell from their notes on the DFEs, they weren't picking up the phone. So I pulled them together and I made it very clear. I can't coach you unless you're following what I've laid out for you. How do I coach chaos? My coaching is stop doing whatever you want. I wrote it down. Let's go over it again. And this will be the last time we go over it. You guys are either going to follow the instructions that I've provided or go find another job. It was a tough conversation. But I had to be really clear. And so now they're super clear that it's not optional. And now it looks like they're trying to follow it. And now I can coach them because now I can see that they're attempting to do the thing.
And if there's struggle to do the thing,
I can help if they're struggling to do the thing. I can't help if they're not trying to do the thing. So the first thing we as leaders have to do is set clear expectations and priorities. And here's the other side of that. This is really important. It's never fucking obvious. Follow that story that I just told. And being the challenger and the A-type that I am, this one's going to be the thing. If I can actually get my head and my emotions around this one, I will be the Dalai Lama by the time I die. Because how is it not obvious that if I take the time to write down instructions, provide them in the instructions, show and tell the instructions, that it's optional? I don't know, but here's what I do know. It wasn't obvious to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the Dalai Lama moment.
Humans fear asking questions because it makes them vulnerable and it makes them look like they don't know what they're doing. But they don't realize what comes out of that vulnerability, out of that moment of maybe looking like you don't know what you're doing. You're not going to get scolded. You're not going to get beat or you're going to get clarity. And then you're going to know what you're doing and you're going to feel powerful in your position because you're going to now have the opportunity for your leader to teach you to answer those questions. And then you will come out the other side of it. So knowing how to do your job and doing it right.
We're all aligned. Therefore, we're in it as a team. And therefore, we fail or succeed as a team. That collaboration sets us up to be in it together. You know what's interesting about that? And nobody would expect what I'm about to say. So I've never met them, but I can tell you for a fact that every single one of the Lakers are incredibly vulnerable human beings. Anybody on a high-performing sports team that is an elite team, you know what they do? They sit and they watch the game film and they criticize their own selves in front of each other, and they give each other criticism and talk about it, ask questions and take input. And that's the only way they got as good as they are, by being vulnerable, by being critical of themselves. To be critical of yourselves by its very nature is a vulnerable process. Being accountable to your outcomes, accountability, according to Brene Brown, is a vulnerable process. Generally, some of the most successful people on the planet got that way by being vulnerable. So here you have all these average people and they're holding back. Be vulnerable. Brene Brown also said vulnerability is sex.
And it's one of the most powerful tools in growth.
There can't be growth without vulnerability.
Yes.
Because you have to acknowledge you have room for growth.
Yes,
you have
exactly.
to acknowledge.
You can't move forward unless you admit that you are behind.
Clear expectations and priorities. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that means having really uncomfortable, loud conversations. I was sick with myself for 2 days after having to be this direct with my leadership team. As I watched everybody mourn, as I watched everybody pick up the pieces and start operating in the fashion I was asking them to, then I was able to lean in and provide support. And we immediately started making progress. The feeling of progress is not just relieving, but it makes the challenge we had to live through better. The crossroads of a breakdown, something not going according to plan, the crossroads of a tough conversation is we can let it erode us as a team. We can allow it to make us stronger and then start making progress. That's us becoming stronger, better, faster as a team, right? Provide direction and support and create a culture of discipline and trust. Be disciplined about making sure that we're disciplined, okay? And then I'm gonna have your back. If you don't try, there's no place on my team for you. But I think here at 120, when somebody's putting in the effort and they're not getting it as quickly as somebody else, we carry them. And that's where trust comes from. And then having that conversation, closing that loop, operating as a team. We're in it together. How do we not trust? Recognize and reward outcomes. Like, it's so easy, right? People are trying. You can see that even if it's little tiny baby steps, these little baby steps are being made. Like, now I get to say, thank you. That's fantastic. I see that you guys are doing the thing, right? Like, my job gets easier. The people doing the work's job gets easier, right? And anybody then at that point that's not even trying or holding us back, they got to go as an acknowledgement to those people that are putting in the effort. Exiting those who can't or won't only builds trust. Coddling those that can't or won't, all that does is erode trust. All that activity chasing employee engagement is only eroding employee engagement. But then we have this list, this very clear list. These are the things to actually build employee engagement. Right? Clear expectations. You garnish good commitments. You carry those, you help those, you coach those that are willing to do the work, and you quickly exit those that can or won't. You set a high bar. The way that you're going about employee engagement is killing your employee engagement. The employee engagement lie, right? Set clear expectations and priorities. We all know we're supposed to do that, okay? Some of us are willing to do it, mostly the challengers. Some of us are not willing to do it, mostly the connectors. A challenger and a connector living in the leadership zone, right? They're both going to be able to do it with emotional intelligence and empathy. You have to crank up the noise before you can do number 5, right? So the first time you ask somebody, do you see this problem? Yes. How do you think we should solve it? Give me a 1-3-1. Okay, so maybe they give you a 1-3-1, or they're like, I really don't know. So you say, okay, let me coach you. Here's how I would do it if I were you. Hey, we need to do this. You say, hey, I need this done. And then you see what their output is. If there's an output, you coach. If they don't do it, you address it immediately. If they don't do it again, now there's a pattern. You've got to ask them curiously, what's going on? Hey, there's a pattern here. We've talked about this multiple times. How are you doing? And maybe they say, I really don't know how to do it. Okay, great. I'm going to set up time every day for 30 minutes. We'll do it together. And then I work with them to do. And then maybe I realize now that we've done it a little bit, this is how it's working. I'm going to write down instructions and I provide them instructions.
At that point, it's not about can't. feels like it's more about won't.
Maybe they just don't have the experience or the mindset for the job they think they wanted. Like how many people take jobs because they think they want the job and then they do the job? People get degrees and then hate doing what they got their degree in. Why would I go as far as to sit down with somebody and work it through with them and still keep them if I've got to work it through with them? Why would I go as far as then to write it down before I go to number 5? This is really important. Why would I do that before going to number 5? For them? Or for me and the next guy? For me and the next guy, right? Because clearly it wasn't already written down. And here I have a team member that's struggling to get something done. I know how I would do it. So why would I take the time to do this for that individual? 1, because I need to be able to feel good about quickly exiting them if it comes to that. 2, I need that outcome. Every day I don't have that outcome, there's a hole in the team. So me not having a member in that seat that can or will do the job is putting stress on everybody else on the team. Okay. As the leader, I'm not going to be like, this isn't my job. Ugh, I wish they would just be better. No, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and you know what? Somebody's going to say that I'm a micromanager. I'm going to say, no, I'm a leader. There's a gap here. I can't just delegate the filling of the gap. That's not delegation, it's abdication. So I get in there and I work with them. But while I'm working with them, what am I doing? I'm validating how I think I would do it. I'm creating potentially a repeatable process and I'm going to write it down. When the next person comes in, I can be a better leader. I can say, let's read this. Now I've got a document that I can show and tell with the person that I wrote it with. And if they can rise, that's awesome. And if they can't, they got to go because they're creating drag for the team. And if they do, that's fantastic, right? Because now we're going to grow. We're going to be stronger as a team. We worked through it together. They know I had their back. But if they're not, I bring in the next person. Now I'm going to say, here's the expectation. It is even clearer. I now am more capable of being a much clearer leader, setting much clearer expectations. I'm not going to say, here's a document, read it and follow it. I'm going to say, hey, let's read it together. Then we're going to read it. And then I'm going to say, now do it. I'm going to watch what you do and I'll give you coaching. I've maybe learned something. If you don't do it, I can't coach you, but that also means you're not doing the job that I hired you to do. I am here to ensure that you succeed. And if you don't succeed, I'm here to help ensure we succeed. We have a way of working that is defined by the organization. These are the expectations. These are the requirements. And if you're not okay with that, then you're not a good fit for this organization. Because it was my job to ensure this organization was successful before you got here. And it will continue to be my job to make sure that this organization is successful with you here or not. Call me a micromanager, call me what you will, but I have a responsibility to this company, to this team, and to myself to not abdicate and just cross my fingers and hope for the best. Setting clear expectations, especially in the face of adversity, it's hard. We have to have clarity. And these days, more and more people are confused and they want to push back on what looks like good management, but these people are also miserable. They hate everywhere they work. I saw an article over the weekend. It was a LinkedIn post, and the headline was something like, most employees surveyed say that they're underutilized, that they're ready for more, that they could do more for their organization, and their organization is just not taking advantage of that. The absurdity of that notion and that headline, it's hubris. Because the simple fact is this: any manager that's struggling to get the necessary and expected outcomes, which statistically speaking is most of them, will take any help from anyone that can provide it. And so if they're not asking you for help, it's because you are not demonstrating that you can be helpful. Faith, how quickly did I recognize that you were being helpful?
Very quickly.
Yeah. And so I think that there are a lot of employees that tell themselves that story, that they're underappreciated and they're underutilized because they're under delivering. They want more money, they want a bigger title, but they're not demonstrating that they're hungry for the work, that they can be reliable. If you're a manager and you're struggling to get your department to deliver the necessary and expected results, you're going to let somebody that has demonstrated they can help you. The last thing you're going to do is trust somebody that has not demonstrated that they can help you, because if they drop the ball, you're already drowning. And so what I can tell you in practice, walking into these organizations, all of these managers are desperate for help. And if they're not tapping into you to help, it's because you are not demonstrating that you can be helpful.
And demonstrate by being proactive, not waiting to be asked. And
Yeah.
by being proactive by showing what you can do.
This virus of majoring in the minors, meaning if you invite somebody to a meeting, they're going to weigh in. They're going to try to look, it's theater. They're going to come up with ideas. So I agree that in business, these people that are saying they're being underutilized, they're probably pitching ideas all day long that are not helpful,
right?
That are not helpful, that are not on target, that don't even intuitively, because most managers these days are talking about rationalizing and work against the 3 pillars, do these things measurably improve customer satisfaction, team member satisfaction, or profitability? But there is some North Star inside them. They are thinking like, okay, can I have, even anecdotally, can I see how this might create value for the organization, aka help my teams deliver the necessary and expected outcomes? Okay. When they hear something like that, they want to jump on it. But instead, what happens is they go to these meetings, they say, hey, we have this problem. And then 90% of the people in that meeting just vomit up advice and potential solutions about things that they have no experience in. Okay. And then when the manager doesn't pick any of them, they say the manager doesn't appreciate them. The manager has favorites, and the manager probably does have favorites, the people that are actually coming with helpful solutions. And then all these people get all butthurt that the manager never picks their solutions, because their solutions are like, require a major effort to achieve a minor outcome. Minoring in the majors or majoring in the minors, I get really confused because they both apply in certain situations. And then they fill out surveys saying that their manager sucks, they're totally disengaged. So what if that manager went to them and said, hey, here's some guardrails for the solution that I'm looking for. Here's some guardrails. I only need things that will measurably improve customer satisfaction, team member satisfaction, and profitability. Here's the shitty thing. I think at least half of those people that are currently seemingly not helpful might actually come up with something more helpful. So I'm not just saying it's that they all suck and they're disengaged and they're crying. I'm also saying managers don't have the tools. And this comes back to set clear expectations. Set clear expectations. And also be clear with people. Like, hey, thank you for that idea. It doesn't sound like you understand, and I certainly don't understand how it measurably improves customer satisfaction, team member satisfaction, and profitability. So we're going to look for another solution. That's the other thing. Be clear. That's not helpful. And you know what? That might seem like it hurts your feelings right now, but I'm investing in you. I'm saying that's not helpful. Find something that does this. That's not helpful. Find something that does this. And then this person, if this person becomes helpful, I'm winning. I'm leading. I'm succeeding. If this person never becomes helpful, why are they on my team?
Yeah. And if there's a culture of clarity constantly, then I think there might actually be less of those employees who feel like they're not being utilized, because there is always an air of clarity to what they're supposed to be doing. And maybe there will be more individuals who are doing it before being asked to do it. And then they are, have something to do every day and feel like they're being utilized.
100%. Because the basic premise of this article, the employee engagement lie, is that managers chasing employee engagement have created the cult of mediocrity. And it's going to be up to those same managers to recreate discipline and set clear expectations, and then help the people that are willing to. Suddenly then people will start feeling successful. And then the law of diffusion of innovation kicks in. You get your innovators, right? Then you get your early adopters. Then you hit the tipping point. Now, the only difference in that, when you get to the late majority, and then finally the laggards on a team, you just have to get rid of the laggards, because those are the people that are never going to get on board. But yeah, overcoming this problem that we created by misunderstanding the point of employee engagement or how to solve a problem. Wait, how to solve a problem is not by trying to solve the problem. You can't solve employee engagement by trying to coddle people to get them engaged. Okay, so how do we solve employee engagement? Set clear expectations. Follow up. Write it down. Coach. And then quickly exit those that can or won't. You'll end up with a high-performing team and they'll all be engaged. They're not all going to make it. And that's not even sad.
That's life.
That's life.